All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our Meet the Candidates evening. I'm Tom Briggs, and I am the moderator. I am not running for office. Don't want the office. Will not take the office. I'm the mayor of Franklin, and that's all I can handle at this point. It has been requested that we do the Pledge of Allegiance, seeing that this is such an important civic engagement. So I will lead if everybody will stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have two candidates for the position of supervisor. We have Jeff Taggart and Pete Bevilacqua. And we have three candidates for councilman. We have Don Hebbard, Dwight Bruno, and Donnie Smith. We will start with our supervisor aspirants. How we usually go is that there would be 3 minutes or thereabouts offered to each person to do their opening statement. Upwards of 20 minutes if there's that much their need for that much time of question and answer, and then a closing statement, roughly a minute. I would ask, because this is a civic engagement, that you be civil. That this is an important position, and we expect you to be respectful for each candidate, and that we are here to meet the candidates, not argue with them. So please, again, this is the tone that I would like to set for this meeting, if that's possible. All right, so Pete, you have actually gotten the wrong side of the deal here. You're going to start. I'm not a very good coin flipper. So, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for everybody coming and come and meet the candidates. And I want to give you a little brief of what I'm about, because some of you don't know me well, some do. And I'm an activist, an advocate, a lobbyist, and an organizer. And I also go to Albany, Washington, D.C. and lobby with people, and also I talk to Senator Vella and other senators. So if you have any questions, open to questions or whatever. And you can see it on eBay and emails that I do testify stuff to make it safer also. So I'm against the pipeline, against the compressor station, because I want to keep it rural. I don't want heavy industry to come in. I'll be straightforward about it. But if it comes, we have to implement laws and things that we don't like that we have to put in. So it's for your benefit now, and everybody else, not just mine. All right, thank you for your time.
All right, then we will entertain questions. I guess I can stand again. Feel free to ask Pete some questions here. Anything you would like to know from the candidate about his position on the elephant in the room, or other things about the supervisor. Supervisors, as you all know, not only administrates the affairs of the town of Franklin, but also represents the town of Franklin at the county board and deals with all of the different types of things that are going on with the county. Yes, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Stop.
Yeah. Talking about the elephant in the room.
Stand up. Jason Starr.
Oh, yes, Jason Starr. Thanks, living in Franklin. That one of the benefits, apparently, or things that people talk about, an influence on the town will be economic, financial, one way or another. I'm wondering if you have any other ways. Is there any other possible way or ways that our town and surrounding towns could generate that income or bring that financial stream into the area? Thank you.
Well, we also need some volunteers to help out on certain issues. because you can't do it by yourself and reach out to everyone at one time. So you need volunteers to get involved in stuff, because you know what it's like to go knocking on doors and trying to get signatures. Sometimes you go 4 times, you still can't catch them. So people know them, it's easier to catch them, and we need some volunteers to run and have a transparent government too.
All right.
Anybody else?
Yes, could you tell me what your name is?
Yes, Liz Cerro, town of Franklin. Pete, let's see here. What do you perceive as the 3 most important concerns facing Franklin currently?
Pipelines, compressor station, and growth for the economy of Franklin. Also, Como's giving out more money. He just announced it on Channel 12 last night to the southern tier. So if you don't apply for them, you're going to lose them. So you're going to need to do some work and research and get it done. Next. Name, please.
Adam, Niebank. So, of course, we're addressing the compressor, not the compressor, the elephant in the room. Just thinking about where we are and what we're doing and keeping it rural and the real deal and all the good things that we're talking about. Just for fun, I do a little research on Delaware County. Keep it rural. Population's 46,000, right? The same as it was in 1895 when they built my house. Thinking about the median income in the county. Demographics have changed, right? So 46,000 people now, there's about 48,000 in 2000 and continues to decline. I say I appreciate all the benefits of living in the country. I don't have problems parking, traffic is good. I can't sell my house. I can't really find a lot of jobs. The population's declining. I can't put enough kids in the scouting program. I'm trying to understand when we're talking about keeping a place rural, what that's all about. I think it means a little bit something different these days. It used to be agriculture and things like that. So along the same lines, I'm looking for what your proposition, what your plans are to provide, a level of income and a quality of life for my kids. I'm glad I moved here 15 years ago and escaped the big city. But I'm thinking of prospects and maintaining a quality of life where you actually have a school and you actually have programs and you've got a way to maintain your standard of living that doesn't depend on Social Security or a pension or government assistance. So if you could tell me what your plans are for improving the quality of life rather than just maintaining what I see as a declining standard of living.
I have another question for you. Do you want heavy industry to come in? Do you think it would help?
Heavy industry is, yes, I do. Sure. And when you talk about the quality of water, I'm not worried about that, and I'm not worried about compressors blowing up on the hillside. I think it's more dangerous for me to drive my car on the road at night.
Well, I don't know if you researched most of them. I've been to Minisink with people to Minisink. Also been down to Gillibrand's office and Schumer's office in protest. That people moved away from their houses that were $400,000 mortgage on the house because they were getting sick from the compressor station in Minisink. And you also have 9/11 responders that are living there now. And John Field was behind all those 9/11 people that got sick there.
That wasn't my question. I'm looking for an
I'm
alternative.
answering that one and then I'm going to answer the rest. Once that's ruined, this become a ghost town completely. So you want to see it decline even worse? If you let the heavy industry come in?
You're asking me that question?
People,
I don't think that
you
would happen.
admitted to moved away from the city to have peace and quiet. I drove up and down for 17 years and I sacrificed not to be with my family on the weekends only. And
Right.
when I could come on the weekends. So I don't want them to come here and destroy this after I sacrificed, and my wife sacrificed, and the kids sacrificed. And there's a lot of other people that are sacrificing the same way that I know. So I've been in their shoes. I put myself in their hearts and minds and everything. And I've seen what it does. And people are moving away from their homes because of a compressor station, mostly. And if you go back, you'll see PS&G in California. The way Eric Brockovich had a fight for those people that were all harmed by PS&G.
Could you answer my question?
I'm answering.
You speak to my point because I appreciate the fact
We
that
need to
Can-
go
can I-
solar for
I
the
appreciate
jobs,
the fact
for
that
the
you
jobs. We
commuted
need
for
to go
17 years to
solar
make a
in.
living outside of the area.
We gotta get
Which is my point.
people to come here and put in solar and become part of the community.
Is that part of your answer?
Not to just come here, put in a pipeline and then leave. We need steady jobs. We need to get solar people here, windmill people. We need hydro, we need all different kinds. And we need to get jobs and create jobs. But we have to also work on the grants that the state is providing. And if we don't apply for them, you're not gonna get it for new business. So
Okay, so the answer
we
is
gotta look for
solar
new
and hydro?
business.
The answer is solar and hydro is the future of Franklin?
Not just that, there's other produce, agricultural. Get people to come and spend money and live here and try to make a good, decent living. Because bills are high, so.
Oh, I understand that.
And taxes get higher every year. And go to Long Island and go to Yonkers and see what the taxes are there.
Jason Starr again.
Yeah. I was glad to hear you mention just now the produce and the other ways of generating income. But to bring it back, as it is meet the candidates, as we said, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what qualifies you to be supervisor for the town? Thank you.
Thank you. I lived in Queens, Ridgewood, then I moved to Little Neck, then I moved to Valley Stream, which is Nassau County. And we wanted also to get away from the drug dealings that were going on right across from the house and stuff, and neighborhood changing, getting rough. So we came up here for a better life. And also I worked in the union for 16, 17 years before that. And I worked hard. I used to come home at 1 o'clock, at 3 o'clock in the morning and to go back to work as a union worker. So
There are no jobs here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Tim Robinson, did you have a?
Yeah, I got a couple questions for you. Let's go back to the jobs. What jobs do you create? You talk about produce and stuff. Joe used to have the produce down the other end. Did a lot, but that's one family. That's not a lot of families. The tax on the pipeline is probably going to be approximately 20% of the tax base of the town. Yeah, there's not a lot of people afterwards that's going to be working there, but that's still 20% that's going to come in every year. That's going to help the school, which needs it bad, the town, the county. What can you come up with that'll really bring 20% more money to the town? And a lot of us people here are second and third generations, lived here 60, 80, 100 years. And we put a lot of time into this town, a lot of time into the country. And we still fight to make a living.
well, I had a commute for 17 years because I couldn't get a job. And the union rep is very honest. He says, how am I going to tell people that I put you to work and they're going to sit home?
Yeah, I'm worried
So I said,
about the
thanks.
work here,
Yeah, well,
not down
the
there.
pipeline is not going to make it creative for us anyway. They're going to bring people from Texas, Missouri, and all over other places for a little while. And they're going to hire maybe 50 people tops.
No, wait.
He's talking about the revenue stream.
I'm looking for the revenue that you think you can bring to this town.
Well, you bring them in,
I'm not talking
and
about
then,
that.
and then
What
when you
ones do
can't
wanna
live
bring?
here because you're getting sick and you're going to have to leave because of the compressor stations that they're going to put in.
I've
see
already
which one
talked
you're
to
gonna
people
weigh
about
out.
the compressor stations and stuff, and the xylene and toluene, and none of them are talking about it. Texas is full of them. There's 500 and some plants out there.
I just talked about PSNG too. All those people that were harmed, but nobody goes in this year and the other year. Isn't your health important? Your children's health, your grandchildren's health?
Well, if I can't
So
afford
let's
to
get
live
the
here,
money.
I'm not going to be here in the first
Let's
place.
take the money
And
and
my
let
kids
them
gotta
kill you,
leave.
let commit suicide.
What are you going to bring in as industry? Nothing to do with the pipeline. What do you propose?
But people won't be moving here, they won't be coming here if it's toxic.
I don't think we're answering his question.
There's been 3 questions asked the same, and you graded all of us.
But you gotta get businesses to come. And the small pops and stuff like that, you have to get some economical management businesses to come and some construction business to come.
What ones?
Construction.
Maple syrup.
Look, construction. We're in the
Building.
construction business. Joe has been in the construction business. There's people here in construction all around. There's a lot of guys work right here in town, works for Stevens in the construction business. But it's not growing the town.
Well, my cousin in Endicott made out. He had a construction business.
Endicott's
He's
a little
92.
bit bigger.
He's
than
92
Endicott.
years old now.
A lot more big industries in there to pay people that can afford to have houses done and.
But you mentioned the industry bringing you money. So the money industry is, after a while, you're going to be able to live here. And I've been to Minisink. I've been to down in Pennsylvania. And people were moving away. And
Yeah.
where Jeff went, she moved to Georgia now. Rebecca Road is not here in Pennsylvania anymore. So why did she move?
But that's not my question. What are you?
The bottom line is, if you accept this money is going to come, yes. But they're going to add. They're going to get more industrialized. You have another pipeline coming with a compressor station. They're not telling you where they're going to put the next compressor station. We're just going to take the money and say, okay,
Well, they
do
were
whatever
gonna-
you want.
They were
just
good
run us
about
over.
telling us that they were gonna put one.
Here's what
Most
the
of them they
Constitution
don't.
just did, and I have it in writing from Bruce Kernan. I just got it delivered. They were giving him 20 cents a linear foot for his easement, right? So they couldn't go through because DEC and Army Corps Engineer, you know what they gave the other neighbor? How's 2.5 million for an easement, for the same easements?
One's a better negotiator than the other.
No, that's
is not-
because-
that don't concern me and work here. I
That's-
wanna know, are you bringing a Delmat in here? Are you bringing a McDonald's in here? Are you bringing something that's gonna employ somebody?
But you have to reach out and see if you can get McDonald's or Wendy's to come here when you have Oneana nearby.
Are there questions regarding issues other than the pipeline? Again, as I had explained before, and as Jeff has experienced, that there are a lot of issues at the county level that, and we are being represented at the county, and you know, I think that's, you know, I hate to deal with just one issue because having worked for the county for 34 years, I've seen a lot going on there. And I think it's important that we get a sense of some of the other activities that are going on in the county. Yes.
I'm Rosemary Whitaker. I'd like to ask you a question. What's your thoughts on providing senior housing in Franklin? That would attract retirees from the city or New Jersey or wherever, which a lot of people come, to Franklin. And that would provide a better tax base.
That's where we have to get a private committee to come in, volunteers and help, because you can't do it by yourself. You need people to get out there and reach out. And then you also need to lobby in Albany and also in DC. If we don't lobby, we won't get anywhere. The state's not just gonna hand you stuff. So you're gonna have to lobby and fight for it, and that's what we're gonna have to do.
Any other questions at all? Pete? Oh, yeah.
But just for fun, to completely off the, I mean, I like Liz's, you know, what are your three concerns? Probably another, I mean, it might not be an elephant in the room, but we're all concerned about the health and the viability of the Franklin Central School. Any thoughts on that as far as, you know, maintaining that and how we can, you know, assure that perhaps the school stays here?
We have to lobby and send letters and get things done to send more money. That's where you get it from, for the schools
So
too.
again, we're looking to the outside to send money in. I'm trying to think.
Well, we pay a lot of taxes too. We don't, these taxes are not cheap here either. They're going up every year. So then they give back only a certain percentage, whatever they feel like giving us. And if we don't lobby, we're not gonna get anything more from them. They'll give us less.
So we're looking to Albany.
Because
I mean, I would love to think.
I've been to board meetings and Jeff could tell you, they gave them less this year.
I'd love to think.
This
the
is how
town
they
could stand
work,
on its
the
own.
state. So,
I think it would be good if the town could stand on its own on any number of things. I mean, I'm hoping that we can come along with that.
well, if they let us keep all the money that we collect from the taxpayer.
Well, no, I don't, it's only half the school budget, half a $6 million budget.
Anything else? All right, Pete, you have a minute or thereabouts to make your final case, and then I'll switch over to Jeff.
Well, that's where I stand, you know, I'm looking out for your health and benefits of your life and your kids to come and other people that will come to the neighborhood. But if we make a toxic place, then we won't have people coming, and houses values will go down and everything else. And some people get to the age where maybe they want to move, but they want to sell the place or get a smaller place. Like you need money when you get to be older, and we're all getting there. So if you can't sell and get a good profit for your land, how are you going to go ahead? You're going to go backwards. And you worked hard and sacrificed like everybody else. I know everybody's coming from. I've sacrificed to be here even tonight, so that's where I stand. I'm telling you straight out. Thank you for coming, and thank you for listening out.
Thank you, Pete.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jeff, you're the man.
He's real.
Hi, I'm Jeff Taggart, the President Supervisor. I've been a resident of Franklin my whole life. Last year we moved 1.5 miles away from the farm. For the first time I've grew up, raised, and lived on the farm my whole life. I've been involved with the town. I was on the committee to form zoning, set up zoning for the town. Then I went on the planning board for 4 or 5 years. I did become chairman of the planning board for a while. Then I had the opportunity to come on the town board. And that was back in 96 or so, something like that. Because I remember we, through the town board, you know, the flood of 96 and all the new purchases and stuff we did. And then I was on the town board until 2 years ago. And I feel I've served the town well. I think we've got a very open town. We've moved some meetings to Treadwell, which I thought for years it should have had some meetings there. Now we have put town board meetings in Treadwell for the first time. And that's basically, you know, I guess I am for the pipeline. I think it's the only way to move a, you know, oil product, natural gas, oil, whatever. Because if you don't move it by pipeline, you're going to move it by truck. And if you put 1,000 more trucks on 88 to move what one pipeline will move without a compressor, I don't know if that's saving emissions either. Because those trucks probably burn dirtier than most anything. Maybe not. I'm not saying I'm not thoroughly in favor of a compressor, but I'm not going to shut them off either. I'm still on the fence. On that aspect, future for Franklin, I really think, you know, we've got small industry, there's no doubt. I like the thought of a senior housing. I thought years ago the Treadwell School would be a super senior center, you know, but I think it's way out of line now for price. But you're right, senior housing, at one point the old Madison property was talked of as senior housing, which would have been great right on the edge of Franklin. You know, seniors and veterans are a forgotten breed. I'm sorry to say that. You know, they're the ones that are being stomped on, I feel. Forgotten. I mean, I'm getting to be the senior citizen, so I am probably more concerned now than I was. But you got to look at it. You know, they're not. You know, how can people survive on Social Security? You know, it's really quite a joke, I think, anymore. But I think, you know, we've got to take care of our our retired working class, and our military has got to be well taken care of too. You know, and I think our school, you know, it was brought up about the school. I think we've lost the opportunity through Constitution to have natural gas outlet put in, but it hasn't been forgotten on Tennessee. That would be a great savings for the school. It would be a great savings for the community if we could get natural gas in. And you know, we're all beating on the pipeline this and pipeline that when nothing has been approved yet. So we can, you know, beat on all we want. So I'd like to ramble on, but I'll take questions. How's that?
All right.
Everybody's happy. Good.
Mr. Starr again.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Can you tell us, with as much specific information and detail as you can, how you would expect the town to respond, surrounding towns, and yourself specifically as supervisor, to respond to a pipeline explosion, a pipeline rupture, or an explosion at the compressor station.
How I understand the town, or actually you'd probably be talking fire department, emergency squad, would be crowd control. They would make sure people are away from the site because the company will send in somebody to take care of the fire. Because you're not going to put the fire out until it burns out. That's what I've understood. There's no, if something does happen, which doesn't happen an awful lot that I know of, but if it would to happen, I understand the fire department emergency squad would be more of a crowd control, keep everybody away from the area.
Like evacuations?
Basically, evacuation from that vicinity is what I understand. And what's the other, was that your question?
And then
Jason?
surrounding towns, and how else, what other services are in place, or plan that Franklin would have, and I guess have to have if this does come through, and there is a pipeline and compressor.
That's basically the plan. I mean, the fire departments will be trained somewhat, but I've been told by the gas companies that they are not to fight the fire. What they are to do is to keep people at a safe distance.
And how is that done? I mean, is there a
That would be up to the fire
place?
department, as far as I know.
Okay.
And I would hope that, in this case, it's up on the Otego Mountain, that Otego would be involved, adjoining fire departments to help crowd control, basically, is what it is. That's what I understand of it, Jason.
Because they do and have happened. I think you've probably seen and read articles or stories about recent pipeline explosions. So they do happen.
They do happen, yes.
You
Yes, they
would
do.
agree with the...
I'm not saying it's, there's nothing fail-proof. Everything has a, if you use it enough, it's gonna fail.
Sure.
Just like a piece of equipment, if you use a piece of equipment long enough, drive your car long enough, someday it's gonna quit.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna have a problem with it.
And hopefully you might have the owner's manual with you, if you could check it out. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering-
if you're lucky.
Yes, if frankly, if there is a plan in place or in the works for our services, emergency services, to be trained or to have out a specific evacuation plan that we as the citizens
Well, this is
would
what the
know.
fire department is trained for, and I would believe that they have been approached to some degree, I would think, Jason.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ellen Curtis
Yeah.
first.
Is there anything in place that the gas company would provide for the training of the fire department? Or is there any money to decide to fix the roads for all the traffic?
Well, we are working on a road use agreement. We're getting closer to it. It's not a done
Why
deal.
don't we put in a law? An agreement can always be rejected, a law cannot be. On the law, we can sue. With an agreement, they can just nick on it and just say, okay, sorry, we are out of here.
Well, there's differences of opinions with lawyers on that. Whether a law is a way to go, whether ordinance is a way to go. A law or an ordinance is an agreement between two parties.
I know, but an agreement you can always get out of. A law, you have to
Oh,
obey.
well, that might be, but I don't think that's right. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, did you?
Bye.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you
Identify
reckon?
yourself, please.
I'm sorry.
Identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Lottie Marsh in Sydney, and I was curious how you reconcile the placement of a pipeline that is 4,200 feet of a burn zone on either side. How do you select or okay that that's going to run by people's homes? How do you reconcile that in your mind?
Well,
That's
I
acceptable.
realized it was a 4,200-foot burn
Burn
zone
zone.
either side.
On a 30-inch pipe, it is, yes, sir.
It is. Okay. Well, I didn't know that, and I guess, this is something I would say the fire department would have to have more input on. I mean, they're the ones that are gonna basically be crowd control. That's all I've understood from the gas companies, is that's what the fire departments aren't there to fight the fire, because It takes experts or gas line people to do it. And the only way to fight a pipeline fire, I understand, is let it burn until it burns out.
So it's basically incinerating people.
Well, I would hope not. I don't know how many people have been incinerated by a pipeline explosion. I've never heard of, 8,000 foot diameter is what you're talking, right? 4,000 each side. That's about 1.5 miles as the crow flies. Now that's a long ways. That's further from here to the end of town. Probably 3 times that, and it's hard to believe that anything could be that big, but maybe it is. I don't know, Lottie. I don't know.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi, Liz Sarah. Jeff, I have a question for you. Have you considered and researched the health and environmental impacts of having 2 parallel gas pipelines and the 30,000 horsepower compressor station in our town? If so, where did you get your research from? And what will you do to help protect the people in Franklin from the health impacts, especially our children?
Well, I haven't seen any studies on that, Liz. But I haven't seen, I know, and I'm not sure how you can word this. There's all kinds of information out there against the pipeline, period. Whether it be, what was the environment before the pipeline came through? Were the tests done before the pipeline came through? Or is all the testing done after the pipeline's through? But what was there before? What's the basis of your research?
Well, maybe that would be something to implement. Let's do studies now on our air quality for the town of Franklin. Let's spend the money to do that, and then.
Where is this money coming from?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. You're suggesting, so I'm asking. I don't know either.
Well, I guess the question would be.
I don't think it's your turn, Jason. I'm sorry.
I thought you were asking a question. I was trying to answer.
I was asking Liz a question. I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
Well,
You can't see Tricia.
Tricia's behind the
You
post.
don't see her behind the phone. She's raising her
I'm
hand.
sorry.
She's tired.
But are you through first?
I just have one other question. If this pipeline, as I think Tim Robinson had commented on the tax base, if the tax base were not coming to Franklin, what would you like to see happen in Franklin to improve the economy here? If the pipeline does not get approved, and the compressor station does not come to Franklin, what will we do for this town?
Well, I think it would be nice to have small industry come in of some sort. We have got contractors. That's very small volume. I'm afraid, it's 2, 3, 4 people possibly.
What type of small industry do you have an example?
Most any industry that would like to come to Franklin. I mean, I'm not. I can't specify what industry you're talking. Something food related possibly, but you've got to have supply to feed the food, and I'm not sure we've got the year-round supply for it, or what it would be. I mean, I think we'd be open to most any industry. That's where we have zoning. It will control what industry does come in and where sometimes. I mean, ag is really open to most anything, which that's how it was set up. That's how it is. But have if we had a lumber or a sawmill, it might not be the worst thing in the world. It's, but you'd want to control the hours and stuff for it. So it's not a 24/7 type of thing. Because of the lumber in the area, that might be something that might survive. But of course, there's already sawmills shutting down, so I'm not sure if we've gotten so mobile that things can travel so far on a truck that once it's loaded, it's going to where the businesses are already. Instead of, we got a prime example up in Davenport, Green's Lumber. That was a state-of-the-art lumber yard. Increased, and all of a sudden, the owner got sick. But before he got sick, he shut down because there was too much competition or whatever for the logs. So, you know, you want something that will survive. And small farms and stuff, you know, the problem is it's got to be a year-round thing. You can't live on your garden producing enough to pay all your taxes and everything either, I don't believe. I don't know what the right situation is. I mean, Donnie's got a good business and is, fencing. You know, small people, you know, small entities that can survive, because we're not really somewhere where we're not on 88 to get raw products brought in easily. You know, we're not on a sewer system and stuff where, you know, if they've got to have, you know, waste taken care of. So we're, when there was small farms, small businesses all through the town, which was great, it was thriving, but that's because how many farms, how many small businesses, but the job force has always been in Franklin, is either Oneonta or Sydney, is where the job force has been for years. So I mean, that's the unfortunate part. I mean, we can't afford to lose Amphenol. I mean, they're moved that whole building and everything for natural gas, for cheap energy. And if the county, even the state, there's 900 jobs that are well-paying jobs, you can lose that. But I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of variables, and there's no answer, no straight answer for any one thing, I don't think, Liz, to what business is going to thrive. Real estate people used to thrive. Well, now that's a tough business to be into. You know, so that there's maybe 5 to 10 people in Franklin were real estate agents, and they could survive. Now we may have 2 or 3. And then I don't know if that's our fault. It's the economy, what it is. I don't know if I talked long enough.
All right, we've got Trish and then Tim.
Hi, I guess it's similar to what was just asked, and I think that senior housing is a novel idea, but really the future of any town is its youth and its families. And as probably one of the few that chose to return and raise my family, I may be an oddity, but it's important to, what is it that, how do you see yourself, whether it be on the town level or on the county level, assisting or influencing the draw that a town like this has to young people to raise their families, to start new businesses, pipeline aside, whatever it is aside, it takes a combination of both, you know, the desire of the council and the town and perhaps even the county, private investing, public funding, which up until this time has been something the council has not sought. So what is it that, from your end, aside from economics, that will bring young people in and help young people stay?
I guess I don't have an answer for that, because I don't know if there's, I think there should be some type of, I mean, right now, and it's just being talked of, I don't know if it's going to happen, is a WAC in the Treadwell School, which that'll bring some outside jobs in. Well, you know, there's a few local people I think who work for the soil and water and WAC and stuff. But that's, you know, to say it's going to create jobs, you know, we've done more chasing jobs away. Society, and I'll blame it on society or whatever. We've become too mobile. You know, back 40 years ago, this village was booming. We had, I don't know how many storefronts were full. Well, 88, it used to be when I was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it was a rarity that you went to Binghamton. Today, I'm going to go there tomorrow, no big deal. And that's why, because that's what society has, you know, allowed or, you know, grown into. We want to go to Binghamton shopping. Well, you might not have got everything here in Franklin 40 years ago, but probably almost anything you want. But today you can't. And Walton is a ghost town. Delhi isn't a whole lot better. Thank God they got the college. Because without the college, what would Delhi be? And Sydney, without Amphenol and Meade, Keith Clark, whatever the the printing company is down there. You know, without that, you know, there wouldn't be many jobs in Oneonta. There's not the jobs in Oneonta there used to be. And to keep people here, this has never been a town to employ a lot of people. It's always been the bedroom for it, for years. I mean, you know, Sydney and Oneonta have been where the jobs have been. And, you know, and now the problem is the jobs are getting tougher and tougher to get because there's more and more people for fewer and fewer jobs. And I'm not sure, I think we've got to go more. Technology is a great thing. But sooner or later, we're going to have somebody that does work with their hands and builds things. Because we're losing that. How many carpenters are in here? How many people work with their hands?
Don't be shy. And he doesn't mean on a keyboard.
I don't mean on a keyboard, you're right. I mean, you know, it's going to be a lost art. You know, which is very unfortunate. There's you know, really great people in this township and a lot of talented people in this township. And I guess if I'm just rambling on, Patty, if you want to.
It wasn't meant to be an easy question.
Well, it definitely isn't, but I can spread the, yeah.
For everyone to ponder, really.
Tim?
Well, a couple things to back up something you said. On the old folks home, that's what I originally bought Madison's to do with. And they can be checked, because I had surveyors come in, all up and onto it. They got shot down immediately. No hospital. I got property in Walton, they're looking at it because the hospital was there.
Mm-hmm.
Sawmill. It would be nice to have one. I've got a portable one up the other end of town. The laws that everybody wants to implement restricts sawmills within 1,000 yards of any dwelling in the township. So I looked everywhere to put one. Couldn't find to get 1,000 feet away from everything and get three-phase electricity and all this. So I put a portable one in that building. The village don't have that law. So there's two things right there that laws don't always help.
Right, right.
And the old folks, we haven't got a hospital. So now they're putting the center out here or whatever it is.
Right.
Maybe it could be something. But that was the original thought, and I think you heard about it.
Yeah.
That's what we were up
Right.
to.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that would have been a beautiful. My grandparents were getting old then, or my grandmother and my parents.
Yep.
That's what it was all about. Can't work, they don't work.
Right.
And that's why we gotta look at other things.
Very good. I will have, I'm seeing Marjorie Kellogg.
Maybe it's sort of wrap up. Jeff, do you think that it might be, that it should be, or it might be not the job necessarily, but the vision of a town board to look to the future and recruit, rather than waiting for things to come to the town, to go out there and present our wonderful town as a place that people would want to bring a small industry that then and can also live and raise their children in a comfortable and inspiring environment, rather than kind of sitting in. I mean, we all sort of feel, I think, that this development is needed. The question is, is there a way to think of that, to shape that development so that in the long run it's good for the town and for the people who live in it. In the long run,
Right.
for those children and the children of those children.
Well, I could probably talk to IDA, and try to see if they'd have anything that's, coming for them, because, as you said, it's for grants and stuff. And that's basically where they should go for their funding, whether Franklin would be a spot for somebody. I can ask them if they've got any small businesses that want the rural area. You know, and it's, you know, there can't be any better rural area than Franklin.
Well, I think it's worth thinking about, selling ourselves a little
Right.
better, a little more. So we don't have to rely on industries that are gonna destroy the town.
Right.
Find some that will build it up.
One last question here.
Hi, it's not quite as good, I don't know, it's Marjorie's, but just kind of with regards to small industry and such, would you, as supervisor, ever entertain the idea of updating our alcohol distribution and distillery laws to allow for such an industry to come to town and bring in revenue?
I never was against it. I don't think we need it. I'm sorry about that, because I'm sorry, I'm a teetotaler. And so, I mean, I just, you know, if the town wants it, there's nothing, you know, everybody can berate what happened before. But, you know, if you don't do the petitions right, they're not gonna pass. And why it's been dropped, I have no idea why it's been dropped. That's whoever brought it up before, they haven't brought it up again. You know, I've heard some businesses in this township would just soon keep it dry, and that's the golf course. This is one more headache. Of course, it would probably help the restaurants possibly, or, you know, diner and stuff, it might. And maybe the stores, that might help them. But, you know, at this time, I didn't sign for the petition or against the petition, I don't believe. I don't think I ever saw it, matter of fact, so I didn't sign it. But, you know, I'm not, you know, if the community wants it, it's got to come up for vote. And I think that's if the, you know, if you want to do it, somebody's got to do legwork for that. You know, that is a problem. And if you want to do the legwork, go for it.
Very good. Your opportunity to say your final thoughts then, Jeff.
Well, I think, you know, the biggest loss this town has had this year, in the last 2 years, is the divide in the community. This is very unfortunate, and you know what? Once you've had a friendship, and you break it off, you may never get it back. The chances are you will never get it back. The old business phrase is, you lose a customer, you won't get them back, because you'll find somebody else to service them. I think it's the same thing in friendships. This is a very unfortunate part about this whole town. You know, we are cutting ourselves in half. And that is the most disappointing thing there is here. You know, the respect factor, the concern factor. We've got to get that back, people. And it's not, I mean, we shouldn't, you know, yes, we have difference of opinion. That's a gimme. That's good. It's when you can't have the difference of opinion and talk afterwards. It's a tremendous loss, and you'll never get it back, and that's the biggest loss the town has got. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go. I'd actually, I'd ask the three councilmen runners to come up and sit at the table here. Thank you, Pete. Yeah, there are refreshments in the back. Don't feel that you have to all go with that.
Wouldn't take much of that. He used that term
That's a general. Never
breakdown here, folks. What I intimated when I suggested people could come up and get refreshments is that you do it quietly so that we can do the second half of the program, okay? The other thing is this. I just haven't had enough experience being a moderator, I guess. The way it was explained to me after, unfortunately, the first segment had completed is that the 20-minute session of questions and answers is supposed to be to each of the candidates so they all can respond to the same question. So I apologize. I apologize to the candidates, and it's the way it goes. I'm sorry. I also want to say one more thing. And I don't want anybody talking while I'm talking. I want to say how impressed I am with the people in this community. I think that there's a great deal of wisdom here. There's a great deal of local wisdom. There's a great deal of outside wisdom. And when we're talking about something that is near and dear to me, and that is sustainability in this community, I think this is the answer to our concern about becoming friends again with each other. And that is this whole idea about working together. I firmly believe that there is a future in this community, but it takes us talking about how we're going to make this happen. So I'm impressed with the way this whole thing is going, because this is really what needs to happen in Franklin, because it does have a great deal of potential. Thank you. I only have one coin, and I have 3 candidates. Is there somebody who'd like to start off?
Does anybody have straws?
Well, here we go. Who wants heads? Let's try with you two first. All right, heads or tails? This is heads. All right, that's good. It is heads.
So it's just like football, I can either punt or...
No, you're the man. This is how we did it with the other guy. With you two guys, heads or tails? Tails. And it is tails. So you're third. Don? Don. All right. Don Hebbard.
I kind of prepared a statement because the mouth gets way ahead of the brain sometimes if I'm just trying to talk off the cuff, and there's important things that I thought we needed to say, so I just prepared. For anybody that doesn't know, Don Hebbard. Louise and I, we have been married for quite a while. We have 4 grown kids, and we have 14 grandkids. I was raised on a farm right here in Franklin, and graduated from the school down the road. Went to Northeastern for 3 years in chem engineering. Didn't want to be an engineer. Transferred to Cornell, finished up a degree in business management. And like I say, there are several things that we need to talk about. I owned and operated a dairy farm for 30 years. So up in Treadwell, I know Treadwell. I know a lot of people in Treadwell. I have some ties to Treadwell. I still remember the challenges of farming and managing a farm business. I understand what farmers are struggling with today. It's not an easy industry and never has been. As a town board member, I would plan to work with Cooperative Extension to strengthen our agricultural in Franklin. I will encourage small, family-based niche enterprises such as local cheese, grass-fed beef, blueberries, firewood, biomass production, you name it. There's a lot of small niche industries that we could work with. Dairy farming is still a major industry in the county and in Franklin. But there's a huge potential for growth in Franklin by utilizing all of the abundant natural resources and human resources that we have through agricultural diversification. After dairy farming, I worked in management position in the food industry for 20 years. I was working over at DMV, which is now Domo, in Fraser, and then Flavors of North America out near Chicago. Started as a pilot plant manager, became production manager, facility manager, and I wound up as plant engineer out there. Not bad for somebody who didn't want to be an engineer. I have developed and managed budgets of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've had over 50 direct reports coming talking to me. The majority of Franklin citizens who are employed work in non-agricultural careers. I believe that I can represent the non-farm citizens of Franklin. I completed my work years working with the Agricultural Council, the Watershed Aid Council in Walton that might be going into Treadwell School. We designed and oversaw construction on farms that would protect and improve water quality in the Delaware River Basin. This position encouraged stewardship of our land and our water resources. I still encourage that concept. I am now retired. I started Hebbard Fence 2 years ago, installing and repairing fences on farms. I currently do employ 2 men full-time seasonally. We are so busy, I can't even begin to keep up. I got home at 6 o'clock tonight, so I didn't shower. Sorry about that. Governments don't create jobs, except jobs in government. People create jobs. So find a niche, fill it, and as Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. We need to find how to do those things. I believe working together we can. I will work with the town board and the Franklin Chamber of Commerce to encourage small business growth in Franklin. I will work to increase cell service within the town of Franklin. Cell service is expected by the younger generations and is required for businesses. I will support broadband internet service to allow and encourage professionals to move to Franklin, work from home. There's a lot of people that are already. There's more that would if they had the proper facilities. Governor Cuomo has created a $500 million program called New York Broadband to stimulate investment in broadband. Margaretville, Roxbury, Stanford, and Harpersfield have already been approved for broadband. Delhi and Andes are in the schedule. Why shouldn't Franklin take advantage of this opportunity for a federal grant? And why shouldn't we have broadband? I think we could work towards that. My final comment is directed at the large-scale industrialization of Franklin. I am opposed to large-scale industry. The Franklin Comprehensive Plan was adopted in 2006 by the town board, and it was worked on by a lot of people in this community, and a lot of surveys were done. It clearly promotes small-scale retail and private industry. Back to the niche. Find small ones and hire 2 or 3 people, and if 100 people did that, 300 people are employed. And I will continue that the comprehensive plan discouraged the Walnut type. It discouraged the large industrial development type like Amphenol or like compressors. I believe that Franklin does have a lot more to lose from pipelines and compressor stations than the short-term gains that are promoted. I appreciate your time, I appreciate you coming, and I thank you.
Thank you, Don. All right, Dwight, Bruno.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I noticed a lot of faces out there. I can't put a name to all of them, but over the years I've run across many of you. My wife Debbie and I have lived in the town of Franklin for most of our adult lives. We've worked here. I started work as a private veterinary practitioner actually in the town of Sydney, just below the dam. And from there I went on after many years in large animal practice to work with New York State Department of Agriculture, which has a fairly large territory. I was given basically Delaware County to the tip of Long Island. So it gave me the opportunity to see a lot of things ag-wise and people-wise and community-wise over the years. After that, I worked for New York State, or for the U.S. Department of Ag in their Veterinary Services Department, and I was also assistant professor at Delhi College. I mention this to give you some idea of my background, and I believe what would qualify me to properly represent you as a town council member. I think we have a lot more in common than not, and although, as many people have said here up to this point, you know, we all agree and disagree on various things. In the end, we came to Franklin for one reason, because we liked it. It's a nice place. And yes, we need to be able to move ahead. We need to be able to keep it this way and make it better. There's lots of ways to do it. Nobody has all the answers. But again, I think with the collective energy, collective efforts, that we can accomplish those things. So that's a little bit about me, where I'm coming from, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Dr.
Smith. I'm a fourth generation on a family farm that we run and operate. I'm sure many of you know my father, Donald Smith. I served this town as judge for 8 years. I believe I did a fair job. I decided to rerun again as town councilman because I felt that there was a need within this town. So with that, that's why I chose to run. I plan to stay in this town, hopefully. Long, deep roots in this town. I graduated from the school. I have, with my wife, we raised 4 children, and 2 of them graduated, 2 were waiting to graduate. So for that, here I am.
Thanks, Don. Now, as has been suggested, I was reminded that questions should be asked, directed to anyone here, and the other candidates are certainly invited to respond to that same question. So, again, we're all ready for questions. It's up to you to provide them. There must be something in those brownies. All right, just for fun.
Okay. Hi, Lucero. This first question is for all 3 of you. What do you perceive as the 3 most important concerns facing Franklin currently?
All right, I'm going to start off with Don Smith because you got the easy task the first time.
Oh, well, the biggest one obviously that's being talked about right now is the pipeline as well as the compressor station. My views on it is I am in favor of it. I'll get that out of the way right now, okay? People in New York City as well as in New England need energy. It's my understanding that there's 2 power plants that help provide energy for them, one being nuclear and one being coal, that are both marked to be slashed. When they get shut down, the proposed form of power is natural gas. The main purpose behind that is 2. The nuclear one is old, it's run down, but also after the attack on 9/11, if they had chose to run a plane into that, the casualties would have been much, much higher. So I think for national safety, that is that, and the fact that it is run down, it is going to come to an end. Okay. The pipeline coming through is federally mandated. Realistically, I think there's talk among upper levels that have discussed these possibilities as form of electricity, and that's why both of these are being proposed as natural gas, plus the fact that natural gas burns 99% clean. The next thing is what do we do, in my opinion, as far as keep our community, but yet keep it some form of interest for our young people or even some of our older people to want to stay here and possibly keep our school open. I think it's a huge issue that exists throughout Delaware County, throughout the region. It's no real mystery, at least to me, and I think most of us, that agriculture has been the staple for this region, and always has been for years. Sadly, it is dwindling apart for a lot of reasons that are not totally our control. Everybody wants cheap food. The way our mountains are, large farms is not really feasible to truck large amounts of feed. It becomes very costly. So with that, you're limited to compete with the very large dairies that exist out there. But you try to find ways to keep going. I tend to agree with Don. I think there is a very strong hands-on kind of thing that exists within our community was handed down year after year, generation after generation, kind of an apprenticeship. I think the mandates that exist within the state has kind of pushed out a lot of the small independent businessmen because it's too much work for one person to do, but you can't afford to hire anyone. So with that, you have to accept the fact that this is what I'm willing to do, this is where I want to live, And I may not have a retirement plan. I may not be making what some of the kids that I graduated with that have moved on and went somewhere else, but I'm happy here and this is what I'm gonna do. So yeah, you forfeit something but for something. But I think that the sad part is there's not enough of that hand-me-down apprenticeship to keep it thriving. I would like to see something more done to keep it, whether you're a blacksmith, you're a carpenter, whatever it may be, you know, pottery, whatever. That would be great, ideal, wonderful. I think the biggest part on any of that is being able to provide a service that people want. And if you are producing something, are you able to market it? I think the marketing, there's a lot of talk out there as far as in the dairy industry. Oh, why don't you bottle your own milk? Why don't you, sell this? Why don't you sell cheese? Sounds like a great idea. You eliminate the middleman, but it's not always that easy. First of all, you have regulations that Don, I'm sure, could explain to all of you working in the food industry that are extremely stringent for people's safety. But on top of that, marketing is a huge issue. Some major labor force who really do a good job of marketing yourself. So you're talking employees on top of that, which would be a great thing. But once again, I think it limits you when you start having to be competitive in the labor force with what you have to offer. The third major thing, Liz, I don't know, be happy.
Thanks, Dwight?
Well, certainly, as was mentioned before, the elephant in the room is the energy conduit that Franklin has become. Again, I guess it's important that I get right on the table. I certainly I'm not for a compressor station, and I see the pipeline as being something that needs to be looked at closely, and we need to keep our eyes on the ball with a pipeline system. Just speaking a little bit historically, I recall when Franklin first started to be looked upon, I call it the energy conduit. In other words, transmission of energy from other places to metro areas and beyond, back when the power line came in. Back when that happened, part of the understanding, as I was told, was that we would receive electricity from Hydro-Quebec. And in turn, there would be a consideration that we send gas to them. I think that might be happening now, or there's talk of it. I think so. So the die has been cast, and I think we need to be thinking in the future about what we can what we can do, how we can move ahead without destroying ourselves in the process. Again, with the pipeline specifically, natural gas is certainly some better than heavy oils and coal. The fact of the matter is, the biggest pollutant in the Northeast, and the Catskills are the poster for this, is mercury pollution. Like it or not, that is right now. It also is in the Adirondacks and on up through, and it is because of the need to use oil and coal and those types of fuels. So if people are concerned about pollution and they don't want to be pushing or promoting the use either directly or indirectly of some of those other fuels, I think natural gas also, it's certainly a bridge fuel. The other silver lining, being a bridge fuel, I think, and some people would disagree with that, but I think it could be, is a lot less of a pollutant than burning some other fuels. So I think that the pipeline, if we could utilize some of those advantages, in other words, maybe tap into it, it would help for us developing industries. That's another factor. We can't compete in the Northeast unless we have energy that's affordable. If you look at the price of you know, for agriculture. Agriculture has to be a big factor in our industry. It always has been. It will continue to be. People can say, I guess maybe I might be an outlier in saying that I think that sometimes small farms have a lot to offer compared to big farms. Big farms are not without their problems. And in the Northeast, we have a lot of small farms, small to medium-sized farms. We have a lot of advantages in having those things out there. And if we have a natural gas source, for instance, whether it's drying grains, whether it's if you're in the lumber industry, you know, drying lumber, et cetera, you know, you've got again an accessible source of usable product. All that I think then falls into the attraction for jobs and keeping young people in the county, in our town. That's so important. When I first started my veterinary practice, we had over 100 farms, small farms, within just our practice in this general area. I don't know what, right now Delaware County has in the neighborhood of maybe 100 or so dairy farms, somewhere in that ballpark. It's dropped tremendously. But again, I think we have the potential to maybe stem that tide and maybe increase it again. And plus look for other things. People have talked about maybe light industry. There's a small town above Albany called Argyle, New York, and they lost one of their schools, and it's kind of a place that I always think about when we're talking about this stuff. They wooed in a catheter company, and I think it's done well for them. There are options. They also have a very strong agricultural base in Washington County. So there are examples all through New York where we've got tremendous potential, but we should be able to use our resources, and by that again, whether it be resources that were dealt through a pipeline or our other natural resources. We've already had our largest resource pretty much absconded with, in my opinion, and that's our water. Anything in terms of bringing in attraction to the area, et cetera, has been changed dramatically with our water situation in Delaware County. And anybody who has family here or can think many years back, you know what I'm talking about. You wake up one day and you might be out of business because they're going to build a reservoir. Those days, that happened, it's done with, but we've got to learn to make maybe some lemonade out of those types of things. So.
I guess it's up to me. I suspect probably there's no one in the room that is not aware that I am kind of strongly opposed to the pipelines, the compressor station, and there are several good reasons for it. And I think it is one of the biggest concerns that's facing Franklin is. The world in general, and the United States specifically, seems to be hell-bent on burning up as many fossil fuels as fast and as rapidly as we can. And if you don't believe that there is a climate change effect happening, you probably are in the minimum, unless you're a Republican in Congress. But there are other ways of doing things, and one of the things that it comes back to is personal choices. We made a personal choice when we built our house. We put solar on the roof. Last March, we put a second solar on our garage. After I rebuilt the garage and put a roof on it, we now are energy independent from the solar aspect for our electricity. There are a lot of things that can be done besides just burning more and more fossil fuels. When you look at a pipeline that's, let's take Kinder Morgan, that's coming out of Pennsylvania, going all the way out through Massachusetts, and you're looking at a few $1 billion to build that. You look at Constitution, and it's over 700,000 just to build their short little 124 mile. Those resources could be used somewhere else, because when you get right down to it, the need that is supposed to be inherent in the whole FERC equation, when you boil it right down to the fine point, it's 50 days scattered throughout, for part of 50 days, a few hours a day for 50 days scattered through the winter is the need that New England has. When you do the math, it's less than 1% of the gas that's going to go through those two pipelines. So then you ask yourself, where's the rest of that gas going? Why would you spend many billions of dollars to put into New England the amount of gas that's needed that's only 1% of it? Well, because it's not stopping there. The Iroquois pipeline has already been reversed, approved to be reversed to ship it to Canada. Once it hits New England, and there's 3 companies in the Nova Scotia area that are already set up for liquefied natural gas that will compress it, put it on ships, and sell it somewhere else. That's where the gas is going. Is it selfish and greedy to say, let's keep the gas and stuff for the United States just for ourselves? Maybe in one sense it is. But there's probably at least a few people in here that remember the 70s and the gas shortages when, they kind of shut the spigot coming out of the Mideast. It wasn't a big deal for me in the sense that, we were farming. Who drove? I did need to get fuel for the tractors and stuff, gas and diesel, but it was an example of we were a net importing country. Well, the very fact that we now have enough that we can start exporting isn't necessarily the right answer to take and just do that. In my opinion, the right answer is to develop other ways of using less energy. The first thing that anybody can do is conservation. How many people have yelled at their kids, turn off the light when you leave the room? I grew up with that in my home. We tried to do it with our kids. Our grandkids don't seem to have that idea. But anyway, there's so the pipelines and the energy, I think it's all a fiasco. I just can't agree with it. I think it's going to do a lot more damage than good. A second point, the concern is the job situation and the flight of our young people. We have 4 young adults. One of them is back in Franklin, our son, but he's back because he already put in 21 years in the military and decided, after going to Iraq, he didn't want to go to Afghanistan. He thought it was a good time to retire. Came back to Franklin and was able to get a job with the watershed. We do need to work on ways of doing that, and I do believe that improved cell service, improved broadband will allow people to take and create jobs. And whether those jobs employ 1 person or 2 person, to me, it doesn't matter as long as it's a job. And I have to admit, when we were early married, I actually did work second shift as well as trying to milk cows morning and night down in Scintilla at the time, trying to scratch out a living. It was not a pleasant place to work. I didn't enjoy it. Did it for 3 months over a winter, and I'm not saying that it was right, wrong, or indifferent, but it was something I thought I had to do to put food on our table. Amphenol has 3 Superfund sites that are related to it going back through to Scintilla. Is that the kind of industry that you want to bring into your area, or even keep in your area? And I'm sorry, I'm going to offend a few people that work for Amphenol and retired from Amphenol and are collecting their retire from Amphenol. And I apologize right up front for insulting your business, but there's got to be other ways. And I do believe that working with small industry, small business, working with cooperative extension, develop. A business. How many businesses come to the farmers market? Quite a few. Not all of them are from Franklin. In fact, probably the minority are. But there is an opportunity there that people are developing. Working with the watershed, I worked in the small farms program, not the large farms. So I got to see all these little niches, the people with the sheep and goats and ducks and whatever, and these people that processed them took them down twice a week to either the markets in New York City, or they took them down to the restaurants in New York City. And whether you're raising fish or ducks or geese, there is a market if you're willing to do it, and if you're willing to get the things to support it. I believe that broadband and cell service would certainly allow more people to work from home. There's various people that can kind of, even working in an industry, have a telecommuting day. The watershed tried that with a few people, but you had to be pretty, far up in the food chain. Our engineering specialists like me couldn't because you had to be out on the farm. But I think if we had the right infrastructure, we could do more of that. And third, I'm running short of ideas too. So I'll just quit.
Thanks, Don. Any questions?
Be gentle.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the energy end of it, what percentage do you think solar could supply?
I was to a solar conference in Delhi Tech 2 years ago, and New York State set a goal at that time to have 20% solar by 2020, and they were at 5%. Now, in 2 or 3 years, I mean, there is getting to be more and more solar, but I think it is, it's a long ways from the goals they've set.
I know this summer we talked to a solar, well, we have a solar sales expert, whatever, Brian Hickman, that's got the solar panels outside of town. And he told me only 1% of the energy needs of this country can be supplied by solar at this time. Because the main reason is, as you said, Donnie, is conservation. We are very wasteful as a society. And he said, at this time, with the clouds and stuff, I mean, it was sunny all day and stuff, it was tremendous. But the only way solar works, and you're fortunate, I believe, you did it all on your own, or you got grants too. NYSERDA.
Yeah.
Without taxpayers' money, these wouldn't float either.
Well, the NYSERDA was a small part. Anybody could and still can get 30% tax credit, 25% New York State tax credit. And that right there was the biggest share of it. The tax credit is you get $1 off your tax bill. It's not a deduction. $10,000 credit is $10,000 less taxes. Took us 3 years to go through the first time. Probably will take us a couple years this time because I'm making less money now.
No, but I mean, any of this green energy, which turbines are the same way. So what for government, tax credits and everything like that, they will not pay for themselves without.
But you can say that about the oil industry too. The oil industry is subsidized by DMV in the millions, billions of dollars, billions.
Yeah. I try to focus on the candidates. Yes.
I'm going to go back to Liz's question, because I like that. She asked what are the three concerns, and I just keep hearing compressor. I'll tell you what my three concerns are, and maybe you guys can help me out. The quality of education, you talk about what's going on, and maybe that's because I have 2 kids in school, but I'm concerned about the quality of education in a place like Franklin. The ability to engage in meaningful work. It's always nice to have a good job and be able to do something positive for society. So when I talk about work, that would be a concern of mine, the ability to engage in meaningful work, and the ability to provide for all 3 generations of our families. I'm raising 2 kids. I've got myself and my wife that they think about, and I got my parents to think about. So those would be my 3 concerns, Liz, and compressors aside, and energy aside, and solar power aside, and if you could address those 3
I'll jump in
concerns.
on the school. I graduated from Franklin School. I was in the top 31 of my class. There were 31 of us. And Franklin has created some amazing people out of that little school. And when you look at test scores and stuff, Franklin still does better than state average and whatever. So quality of education from Franklin, I think is above and beyond because you have the small school environment. And you know your teachers and you know your people. I know people that have graduated in classes of 1,000 and they've done just fine. But Franklin, for its size, I think has very good quality education. So I'll answer that part. Maybe the other gentleman wants to.
Right, my concern would be to keep that going.
Well, we're doing okay so far because we have good management. Population, I happen to know the superintendent. Population is up this year. We have more students in school now. We're crowding 300 again now, which is interesting. It dropped down into the 280s and I think maybe even lower than that a couple of times. So the answer is you need kids to have a school. So how do you get the kids? You do it through families, you do it through jobs. You moved here with kids. We were raised here with kids. Anyway, I'll let the other gentleman have. I'm rambling.
One issue that I see, and I've heard endlessly, of course, with the state always hacking back what they want to get back to the schools. Okay, definitely creates a budget crunch for our community. One thing that I see that I would like to see happen is if the pipeline goes through, I believe that we do need a compressor station. Otherwise, we're nothing but a transport line. I would love nothing more than to see natural gas come down through our village or Sydney or any of them. If that does become an option, I would like to push for the school, the town hall, the village hall, and the fire hall to get free heat. That would be a huge plus in my eyes as far as when you look at what it costs to heat our school. Definitely would allow us with some other money that we could continue to do other great things for our kids. That's just one little thing that I think would be nice. I know they've mentioned that you go with a bigger pipe. My understanding is that once you start branching off of that pipe, you need to sustain that pressure so as to keep it going. And that's why I do not have a real issue with the compressor station, as long as we get the option, or I have the hope that some of these communities along the line wind up with the option to get natural gas. Plus, it's going to help the cost of energy for any business that tries to sustain in the community. And that's just one very small idea I have as far as what the school is looking at.
If I can just make a comment on the school situation. I've heard, and I guess it's rumor, that the school in Franklin is under a lot of pressure to stay open. If there's talk within X number of years, it will no longer be in operation. And is that an accurate statement? And it's associated with population. So I think if my trend is accurate here, that we have to look at our foundation first, keep our population up, to be able to bring people in and keep Franklin, again, as good as it has been, and continue to offer the resources that it has in the past to our children, and create an environment where we can thrive. So I don't think we can pick out any one. We can't just say, okay, we're going to do A, B, C for the school. Well, in order to do that, we have to build our foundation. We have to, keep Franklin as a magnet, and again, build our resources such that we're attracting people here. Because again, it's my understanding that the reason we're in the predicament we are with regard to the school and having this conversation is one of numbers. So.
Do you think, my daughter's looking to move someplace.
You're going to have to identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim Hartle.
Yeah.
My daughter's looking to move someplace, and she's looking at Burlington, Vermont. But she was looking at other places too, and she felt that she wanted to live someplace where there was no pollution. And she was looking at a house and found out that there was a compressor station close by, and she just nixed it. And so I'm thinking, do you think that a compressor station will discourage people, young people from moving into this community and building up the school?
I have not seen, let me say, I tried to communicate with Gibson at the federal level and Seward at the state level, and asked them about the compressor station, what gives. It's hard to get, at least it was hard for me to get an answer to be able to draw any conclusions. I hadn't heard anything back. And so I really don't, I'm not a compressor station expert by any means, but I don't see any benefit for it. All I've heard is negative. So again, for the most part. But so I really can't make an educated decision on the station per se. I don't know how many people it's going to add to the workforce. I can tell you I used to live near a compressor station. It was a small one. But when I worked for the Department of Agriculture, I lived within a half a mile of a compressor station and a pipeline in the town of Wright. And I couldn't hear, I couldn't hear it. So, you know, I guess my first blush, I say, well, you know, it doesn't seem like a big deal. I guess just the reputation of them would scare away population. It certainly would. And I question whether that's justified. I don't know, and I can't get an answer. And certainly, nobody on the town board or in Franklin, I don't think, stood up and said, I want a compressor station and pipeline, and by the way, throw in some, high voltage lines in the meantime. I don't think that happened. So, we're trying to deal with the scenario as it exists now. I know I'm drifting from your initial, but it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah,
thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, we're kind of running out of time. I know we've got more questions, and I'm wondering, I guess I'll take a couple more questions, and then we'll allow you to do your swan songs, and everybody can get up and eat, and that'll be it. So, Jane Hebbard?
My name is Jane Hebbard. I agree with Jeff that we have a problem on our hands as far as the community, and I do agree with you that we should all be friends. I want to know, I have two questions. First of all, I want to know, are there any members on, not members, are there any candidates whose family will be benefiting from the compressor? And the other thing is that I've been very concerned with the integrity and disrespect to some people in town, and there may be candidates involved that they have not treated everyone with respect. I would expect that any members of the board to be respectful of the constituents that they're going to support. And the other thing is that in the campaign, I think that everyone should be respectful and take care to make sure that they don't do something that's not very nice to other people. That we can same as Jeff said, we can disagree with someone, but we should all be respectful of each person. The kids in school, if you ask your kid in school or grandson, grandchild, they will tell you that some things that have been done have been in the line of bullying. So we didn't have bullying as much. We had bullying when we went to school. However, now they make a point of saying that it's not a nice thing to do. I want to know if each candidate, if you have been respectful of other people that live in the town, and do you plan on doing it during the election and as you serve your constituents if you're elected? But the first one, I want to know if anyone's family will benefit from having the compressor and the pipeline.
I'll start with you, Don.
Well, I'm going to benefit from the compressor a little bit. I'm just downwind of it. I'm gonna get all the fumes and stuff. I'm within a mile. But other than that, no.
How about your plea or your pledge to become respectful throughout your campaign?
I have thought I've tried to be respectful. The old saying is, you know, basically, you know, we can agree to disagree. And I think that I can do that. I don't know that I have burnt any bridges. I certainly hope I haven't. I know Tim Robinson and I don't always agree, but I still do business and like it. Don't ask me why.
We still talk.
But I think that's really, you know, you've got to, you can't take things to a personal level or it's going to burn you as well as the town. You know, we can agree to disagree, and you know, if we all thought the same way, we'd have very few things to talk about.
Dwight, I'll go with you next.
No, I have no personal gain by compressor or pipeline. I think the town would, so I guess as a citizen of the town of Franklin, I think I would gain from benefits to the town from access to natural gas. As far as treating each other and interacting, as Don just mentioned, you know, it's critical that we work as a group. Franklin is not a gigantic place, and we are faced by a lot of issues. They're surmountable, but we have to work collectively. And as I was saying before, we didn't ask for many things that are happening, and they're very complicated. It's a complicated time, and we need to pool all of our heads and resources and efforts to do what's going to be in most people's best interest.
Don?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by gain. Does the pipeline go across my property? Yes, it does. Have we been offered supposedly some form of financial settlement due to the fact that they're using a stretch of our property? Yes. Would that change the way my life is, or the way I chose to live, or was it a big plus to me? No. It's a fact that they're going to go through. We joined a coalition to try and defend ourselves with them, so as to make sure that we were being looked out for as best we could. I think mainly, as mentioned earlier when Jeff spoke, that was the biggest problem that happened down in Pennsylvania, where the next door neighbor got hundreds of thousands of dollars and the one guy wound up with $1,000. The guy that wound up with $1,000 was not aware what he was up against and did not do anything to join in with a coalition so that he could get support. Would my life change if the pipeline wasn't here? No. I would still farm. I'd still get up every day. I'd work. I would say hello to my children. I would kiss my wife goodbye when she goes to work. I would check in on my parents and look forward to them coming to the barn and helping me. I would still deal with the same financial problems that I deal with now. I do not drive a new vehicle. I don't have a brand new tractor. I have endless bills that are piling up, but that goes with dairy farming. So to think that just because the pipeline comes through, all of a sudden I'm going to be a rich man, I wish. But sadly, that's not the case. To the best of my knowledge, I do not believe that I have offended anyone for or against. I have, as a matter of fact, several friends that I know are against it. We laugh, we talk about it as much as possible. We don't mention it because I'm extremely busy like everyone else is. And the time I get to see my friends, I surely don't want to deal with conflict. Same with when I walk through the village, same with when I go to the Don's Deli and I get something to eat. I see someone, I say hello, how you doing, da 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 da. Basically, I think I'm a happy person.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One last question.
I just, for clarity's sake, it's come up a couple times. Has there been a written commitment or something with regards to these pipeline companies promising our town free gas? Because if Amphenol's not going to get it, I'm wondering how we are and what kind of cool stuff we're pulling off if that's the case.
My understanding.
Basically, I'm saying, is this the case? Is this in fact the case, or is this a rumor being perpetuated?
My understanding is that Leatherstocking was looking to have 4 spots on the pipeline where they could put tax off. Franklin was never one of them, and when things got boggled down a little bit, Leatherstocking even pulled out from the concept that maybe Delhi would get something. It shows me that that probably is not going to happen because the 2 businesses, Saputo and Domo and Fraser, have converted to liquefied natural gas, and it now comes in by a truck. When I worked at DMV, when it was DMV, a tractor trailer came in every day with number 4 fuel oil. I mean, that's how much they use a lot of steam in the food industry to sterilize and clean and process. Now that energy is coming in a truck in the form of liquefied natural gas. I don't understand why a businessman would put that kind of investment in place if he thought a pipeline was coming in within a year or 2. So if they don't get gas, I mean, who is going to pay for a pipeline from the down to, they're not going to give it to us. So I just don't see it.
Jeff?
Can I respond to some of this too?
Disappointing.
I've never heard the free gas factor. It's a great thing.
But whether it's free or not, a pipeline to the school, the businesses, etc., it seems.
It was Leatherstocking's lip service, I think is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
Just because they went to the village board, they went to the town board, they went to the county board. It is a great thing if it could happen.
Yeah.
And that's why the Constitution is, there's no way that the town, Amphenol will, there's no doubt. And I think Afton and Bainbridge are possibly 2 of the sites too, that get a T or something.
The towns are talking about it, but Leatherstocking isn't.
Well, Leatherstocking, they pulled out because of New York State, a lot of it's New York State regulations. I called them back in the spring, and they've got to go through the state to see how much they can charge per gallon for it once it's all in. They were dealing with Windsor, which has got compressor stations and pipelines. I don't know if they ever did anything with Windsor. The existing pipeline.
Well, I've got, this is becoming an information session for things other than trying to get a better sense of who our candidates are. One last question then. This is it, because we really need to.
Because that does relate, aside from the pipelines and compressors, if each of the candidates could maybe speak on what other issue, or is there some thing that you have in your mind as a council member you want to do for the town, and that's driving you to be on this board and take on this this position?
Any of you gentlemen want to go first?
You can.
All right. By default. As I mentioned, I believe Franklin could do something. I think we could be proactive for both broadband and cell service. How do you do that? I don't know. I've investigated a couple things, and I think there are ways so that we can at least make it more active. The other thing that has been talked about, and it came up at the last board meeting, there is some confusion that the town of Franklin does not have a website. And there's some confusion with Franklin Local getting confused with Franklin Town. I see no reason why in today's society a town shouldn't have a website where all of our information is posted instead of having another entity posting it and confusing things. So that is an issue of, call it transparency, call it whatever you want, call it information. That's an issue that I would certainly try to address. And then that one might even be doable.
All right. Don, I guess, next.
I can't sit here off the top of my head and say, oh yeah, I definitely want to go do this, I want to go do that, and so on and so forth. The one thing that sticks in my head is my grandfather told me years ago, this is a small community, it doesn't matter what your community is. If you want to have anything to do with your community, you need to be involved in your community at a big level or a little level. And so with that, that's why I decided to serve again.
Very good.
And I'll just reiterate some of what Donnie Smith just said, and that is, I think it maybe in the future, what would be helpful is the community forming committees, things, you know, that can generate ideas, and then having time for forums where these things could be discussed, but not necessarily the way it is now. I think one of the problems that we run into, and I've been doing my best to get to all of the town board meetings, is that we all realize that the town board has a lot on its plate. There's a lot to do, and it's very complicated, and there's only so much time to do it. But that doesn't diminish the value of some of the things that come up and need to be discussed, but maybe it needs to be approached in a little bit different manner. I think it tends to turn into rancor, and then it's defeating on all ends of the scale. So that's important. Certainly technology, gosh, I'm all for that. I mean, we need to have self-service. We need to have abilities to communicate. As far as a website is concerned, we got to be very careful. I'm not, I would not say carte blanche that we just need a website. Those things can be used, they're valuable, but they certainly can be abused. And if you don't think so, just pick up a paper any day and see what happens when wrong information gets on there. So it needs to be official, and it needs to be somehow controlled very strongly if it's done. So it's not something you're going to just say, well, let's slap a website together and start posting stuff, because that's going to create more problems and more issues than it's going to be helpful in my mind. So.
All right. Each of you are entitled to a final say, if you'd like.
So I'm last?
You were last. Okay. Start off with Don, I guess, then Dwight, then you.
I have not much more to say. If you choose for me to be your councilman, I hope to serve you well. I do hope to leave an open ear to listen to what I can. Other than that, I said more than I choose to say, because I really don't like to talk all that much.
Mike?
I guess as I alluded to before, Franklin has a lot more good and a lot more positive than negative, and we need to, use that energy in the right way. We need to move ahead, and we need to work together. And as Jeff has mentioned, there's been a tremendous divide. I know it's been repeated and repeated, but it's worth repeating again, because we won't be here having any progress if we keep going down the road that we're going, and then we'll all lose. So again, we came to Franklin for a reason. We didn't come here because it's a rotten place to live. It's a pretty darn nice place, and we just need to accept and listen to each other and compromise on some things, I think, sometimes.
Very good.
Well, I want to thank you all very much for being concerned enough about your community to come here tonight and at least listen and ask a few questions. Involvement in local government isn't necessarily easy, and it's one more thing to do, but I appreciate you folks coming here tonight. I do feel that, if I am elected, I can be an active, proactive. I think I have enough experience to at least understand a little bit of whatever might come across the table. I do feel that Franklin needs to be guided. We started that process in 2006 with the comprehensive plan. I fully believe that it's time to start looking at some of the recommendations that were made back then and see what progress we have made and where we have not made progress, and work towards those. So I would intend to at least talk with the board, if I am elected, about how do we set up a committee that does start looking at the comprehensive plan and making it happen. This is what we wanted, and if it needs to be changed, then it can be reviewed and revised, but I think it's something that we need to start with. And I thank you for your attention. And
very good.